The main purpose behind of this practice is the use of the classes in C++. The use of the classes or the functionalities behind of the use of the classes or implementation of the classes. So we see actually from the basic concepts until the more complicated, and we'll proceed step by step. First of all, the first task is asking us to initialize the values of an entity or an object, which is a user, a candidate. Its values they are the ID, the name, and the age. We're going to initialize them and display them using actually via the help of the class. So now to do so, I'm going to start my regular, let's say, compiler. In here immediately I'm going to start. So actually remember that we need the main at the end of the day. So to have the output, this is for sure. There is no secret behind. There will be a need of the main more or less for the output to finalize. Okay, we keep the space here, then we come back just in a while. For now, here in between, before the class, actually, I'm going to create a class. I'm going to give the name actually student. Yeah, student. And this class has to have a start and has to have an end. And after the end is terminated by a semicolon. Good. The attributes is.
The screen is not.
See your screen.
You cannot see my screen?
Yes.
Screen is not.
I see.
No.
Great. So the attributes asked by this question or by this request to identify are the ID, the name, and the major. They are all for a given student. So the ID actually is clearly it's a number. So immediately I'm going to give it the data type int. The name is a char or a string. I'm going to give it the string as a data type. And the major still is a string also. I'm going to give it the string. Maybe I can give a char of arrays, something like that. Good. It's enough. It's enough. So those are the requests. Those are the attributes requested by the question, no more or less. First of all, before demonstrating anything, I'm going to start by initializing the values. I may do the very static basic initialization way. Good. I initialize those parameters, no more or less. Now inside the main, I'm gonna bring the output of those values down, those variables, not values here in the main. To do so, I have to instantiate the class. Means the class is here. To do so, the name of the class itself, copy, paste, space, name of an object. I'm gonna say here, let's say obj, simple, very easy. And through this obj, through this object, we will be able to reach the components of the class student. How? obj dot id, obj dot name, obj dot major. Great. So here, those are the attributes of this class. I'm going to bring them in output no more or less. So just I'm going to say something like the following. It's not mandatory, but even though it is successful, so it's simple. and not make it complicated. Okay, let's test. Okay, I have an error. I have errors, even not only one. Let's start with the first one. ID is private with with this context. See here what he's saying is private with this context. Is private. No, there is another message, but whatever. Since it is talking about the visibility, I'll start with the first one. We cannot use those variables here: the ID, the name, the major. Yes, major only. Major outside of the scope. Scope is the class only because they are private. To do so, I have to respect that. So I'm going to say private, leave it like that. And then here, I'm going to refer to, for example, a method, a function, let's say. I'm going to say int get values, semicolon. Great. Through this get values, we are going to initialize, let's say to display, we initialized already, to display the values of those variables. Just one hint I have to bring your attention to, which is get values, I terminate it with a semicolon. Means this is a prototype. The prototype inside the class is accepted. Means I can write the same way here, or I can define a function inline. So here in int, I'm going to say disp users, not a semicolon. I will have a curly brace here, a scope. So this is the scope of the function inside the main. So in this scope here, I'm going to say, for example, cout less than std name is less than std dot name semicolon. Okay, so the same way here for the other parameters. std, let's say id is id. Okay, std. I'm gonna say std, the same spelling here. I'm gonna say inside the main, I'm gonna only call this class and see what happens. Okay, std student obj. Let's test now. Still std name. There is a problem here. Primary expression before dot.
Doctor, why you didn't write int main at the beginning?
The class has to be at the beginning because I'm going to call the class here. And since I'm calling it, it starts at the beginning. It has to be recognized. في البداية class. In order when I make the call like here, what is the student? The main will know that the student is something is available before, which is here the class. Yeah, great. So still he's saying actually we are not able to access those parameters here, the name, the ID, the major, and so on, for the visibility reason only. What is it? This one is by default is private. By default is private. I'm going to change this one. The methods only public. Morning we explained the theory that if we declare those things here as private, we will be able to use them only with the same scope only. Outside we cannot. So how to use those things here outside of the class? by calling this kind of methods. By just refer to those methods which they are public, we will be able to see that they are able to call the name and the ID or whatever, execute. Still he's saying expected primary, especially before dot. Yeah, disputer. std.name, std.name, std.name. Actually, I'm not gonna refer to the std name here because I'm inside the class. Also, I'm inside the class in the same block. Yeah, name here, major. I'm gonna use major here. Major, the third parameter. Yes. Execute. Okay, still we have only one error in the curly braces. Okay, here. This, since it is an int, so here I'm gonna change it to a procedure and that's it for it. Simple. Execute. Nothing is there because the main does not have anything here. I'm gonna say obj dot dispuser. Obj dot dispuser. Okay, let's execute now. Has no member. Name dispuser. Dispusers. Yes, true. Not S. There is a colon here. There is a colon. It's a semicolon. Execute again. Student name is Oman, STD ID is, STD major is. Okay, just I'll bring them to a new line each. So end of line. Okay, end the line each. And here they are. Here they are. Okay, this way he actually we were able to manipulate the use of of a class name, visibility of operations. Then we have variables which they are mainly private and methods which they are public. The call here inside the main, we call the method, one of the methods, this one. We may call any other, depends on what we need or the task is required. And through this method here, there is the call of those private variables, which they are given here in output, their values. So this way, we were able to manipulate the initialization of the student's profile using the class only. Good. Second task, we will do the same process here, but we are going to make the initialization inside the main. The initialization is inside the main. Yes, let's dig in. So immediately new tab. I'm going to refer to a new tab. Great. So immediately I not need those things here. Immediately I'm going to refer to create my classes. Class. We'll give it the name here, profile, startup, and add. Great. Same way. I'm gonna immediately without delay private colon. I'm gonna say ID, the name, and major, something like that. Let it be the same, whatever. Major is a string. I'm gonna refer to the data type. I have problem in this interface. Okay, repeated, so no need for those things here. Okay, good. Let's no, before I do any compilation, I have to declare and initialize. So for finish the declaration, they are string also here. Okay, inside the main. So here, a call of what? Public member. So public here, we have, let's say, void get profile. I'm not going to use a void here actually. Let's use print, for example, or float, or let's say string. Let's say here, return ID dot major dot CIS major name ID dot major. Save, there is a save here. We do not need the save here. Did I miss that? I want to copy paste my script since it's the same. And later on I'll explain. Okay, execute. Errors is class students. It's the same name, whatever here. In this regard, I'm going to test, first of all, I said, because of this capital C, no, simple. Okay. Student name is Oman, ID, and so on. Great. Let me check the question again. What did it ask? Display within the main method. So the profile actually needs to be initialized within the main only. What I'm going to do, this initialization here, I'm going to neglect, and inside the main, before we display the user, we're going to refer to the obj to initialize the ID, the obj to initialize what? The name, the obj to initialize what? The last one, which is actually the major. So obj.id equals from 1 to 9. Name, double quotation, I'm going to say Oman Nizwa. Then major, it is a number also, still or string. It is a string again. It is OOP. Great. Semicolon. Now let's test. And do you see this OOP will be outputted, or this IS is going to be outputted? Execute. Again, I said obj ID is private. That's great. That's great. So to do so, and actually syntactically is very okay, but they are private. We cannot call those private, and private from the main. It will not be accepted at all. To do so, their visibility I'm going to modify to public. Simple. I changed the visibility to public. Execute now. I still have only one error. Here it's equal. Okay, it works very fine. It works very fine. Now let's see, we made the initialization and the output is OOP here. The OOP is inside the main only. So outside the main, we do not have such a designation here. There is no OOP. Task number 3. Just to play the visibility and with the visibility only, using the 3 of them. Okay, we are going to do affect the visibility modes. C program to show. Again, we are going to manipulate the visibility only, but let's test the 3 of them. And the task is to make the math operations, the math basic operations. Okay, to do so, I'll generate a new tab. Okay, I'll share this window. I'll start from scratch. Wait, so here, I'm going to create my class. I'm going to say arithmetic. See, arithmetic class. Okay, starts here and closes there. Okay, in between here, I'm going to declare an int A, an int B, then an int result. Okay, the A would receive a value, B receive a value. After long repeatment, actually, we receive the output in the variable res. We store it and display it there. Okay. Before we do now, we know that those variables have to be being controlled using the access control. So before of that, I'm going to set private to be sure that everything is blocked and nothing is running. Nothing can can swap or change any of those details here. So here the declared variables. Then, okay. Then I'm going to declare public colon. I'm going to say addition inline definition. I'm going to put it the function to be an int a multiplied b. Here res equals semicolon. Return res semicolon. Inside the main, an object from this class is obj, and through this obj, I'm going to call the addition method obj dot addition spelling. Yes, spelling addition. Right. Let's test an error فاصل منقوطة here. It's not private here. Actually, it is not a colon here. It is not a semicolon here. It's a colon, full colon. Execute again. Yes, finished. After class. Yes, here it is semicolon. We just be sure that everything is running fine. Let's just execute now and see what is that. Still فاصلة منقوطة before curly brace token. 22. Yeah, here it is semicolon addition. Main, nothing is there. Nothing is there. There is nothing to be declared. Thus, I'm going to initialize those values here. So before this addition, I'm going to say void initialize init vars method to initialize the values. Yes, to initialize those variables more or less. So I'm going to say here a equals whatever 10, b equals 50, the res equals a multiplied b. Okay, the same actually here as we call the addition. Let's call the initialization before the addition. Say void or int, void only. So void space the predefined method semicolon. Okay, execute. Still nothing is there. Void. There is no void here. It's obj. Obj dot. Obj dot init bars addition. There is no error. That's good. That's good. But what is the output? Here I'll put it. I'll put it return here. No, I'll put it here obj. So see out. Okay, 500. 500. What is it? It's 10 by 50. I'm gonna say here. Say here 10 also again. So 10 by 10 is 100. That's good. It works very fine here. I'm gonna say 2 to be 20. Yes, it is. It is very fine. It is working very fine. So this way, we were able to manipulate the parameters as private. I'm going to modify this context of being private into, let's say, protected or private, and we'll see what is the needed differentiation. So from being private here, I'm going to set them public. So those things here, they are public. And what are the things? If I execute, the same result. There is no change. It will give me the same result. Yet by time, we do not need this full initialization function. We do not need it. I'm going to say obj directly. The object directly will reach the A. I'm going to say equal 5. obj dot name equals. Okay, well, I'm going to say Nizwa, something like that. Directly, I'm reaching the variable obj dot the last one, the major. I'm going to say equal quotation. Sorry, quotation. I'm going to say is. Simple. Okay, I have an issue, 2 issues, 2 errors. We will see. We have B. And we have the rest. So the B here, let it be N. And res receives what? obj.a multiplied obj.b. Simple. Additional, let's say, math 50. Because 10 by 50 by 5, it's, let's say, 50. I'm going to say 2 here. 2. And 5 by 2 is 10. Very well. It works very fine here. It works very fine. So here we are having public access control. Directly we are initializing the main. But this method here has to be deleted also. Not only that it is shortcutted for us and we can use it easily, but also this code also we do not need it. We have to omit it. It works very fine. 15, I'm going to say by 2. 30. So it works very fine. The process is perfectly running. Let's see the last task. The visibility, yes, and use functions to initialize variables and also revert to the protected variables. Yeah, the context of the protected normally here is the same scenario, but with reference to the protected variables. I actually will leave this one because we need to know how to implement an inheritance and how to implement the superclass and the subclass context. We'll leave that to the next task, the next time, inshallah. But for now, I'll wait for you to submit the results of those manipulations of the